Utter domination. Michigan rolls Nebraska at Nebraska. 40, what was the final score? 45-7. Michigan gave up a late touchdown. That's just kind of the going rate for Michigan's defense. Looks like Georgia escaped at Auburn 27-20. Michigan dominated. They had 5 drives over 5 minutes per drive, and a lot of plays, a lot of yards. It was amazing. How many drives did they actually have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 drives, and all of them but 2, I believe, went for a touchdown. One of them was a field goal try. Dominant performance by Michigan. Nebraska could not get anything going, and they started dropping like flies. Michigan is built of a team. They are a team of grown men here. I'm trying to tell people this all the time. Georgia does survive Auburn. It all started in the first quarter. Michigan's first drive, they got the ball first. McCarthy had a 9-yard run. Corum had a 9-yard run. And on 3rd and 1, Corum had 4 yards. So, first down. On 3rd and 3, Corum was short. But on 4th and 1, he got 3 anyway. Edwards then had an 8-yard run. Wilson had that 29-yard touchdown catch on the back of a guy's helmet. He was holding it on the back of a guy's head as they went down, and he did get feet in bounds. He had possession. What a play, what a throw, what wind. People were talking about the wind in this game. The wind was like 19 miles per hour, but I don't think JJ knew it. Maybe one play where he sailed it in the second half, kind of sailed it a little bit over Cornelius Johnson's head, but other than that, he has a cannon. The wind does not matter for J.J. McCarthy. So it was 7-0 Michigan after the first drive of the game. Then Nebraska was tipped. Their quarterback was tipped, and it was intercepted by Kenneth Grant, the big fella in the middle at Nebraska's 29-yard line. 3 plays later, and Mullings on 3rd and inches had a 20-yard touchdown run. It was 14-0 Michigan. Nebraska's Thomas Findone had a 14-yard catch, but on 3rd and 5, Kemp had that catch and run for 34 yards. The defense did have a few plays. They need to work on some things with the starters, but in the long run, it was Nebraska. It didn't matter. On 3rd and 4, there was a 3-yard run eventually in this drive, Nebraska's second drive. And on 4th and 1, Nebraska called a timeout, and Harburg had kept the ball, and it was stuffed behind the line of scrimmage. It was a turnover on downs for Michigan. Now, it's the second quarter now. 2 possessions for each team in the first quarter. Michigan scored twice. Nebraska had a turnover and a turnover on downs. Great start for Michigan. This first fast start for Michigan all season long. To open the second quarter, Michigan was driving 3rd and 7. A.J. Barner had a 16-yard catch. Nice to see him doing good. Edwards had that 6-yard run. Barner had another 10-yard catch and run. And then a flea flicker bullet. No one bid on the flea flicker, but JJ just rifled it, forced it into Cornelius Johnson's for 20 yards. Beautiful play. Edwards had that 9-yard run, and then JJ parted the seas with a 21-yard touchdown run. It was 21-0 Michigan. That drive was 9 plays, 88 yards in 5 minutes. Their very first drive was 11 plays, 75 yards in 5 minutes and 40 seconds. So now in the second quarter, Nebraska had a timeout. Michigan's defense, I tell you what, it's the best in the nation. Michigan had 2 straight passes after that in the second quarter. One was that overthrow with the wind to Cornelius Johnson, but one, Loveland had a drop there. I was kind of concerned about 2 passes in a row there. I didn't understand that right there. We were forcing our will on Nebraska. Should have just ran at that point. And then later on, I think we ran when we should have passed. But, I'm not. Uh, Sharon Moore, he is doing a fine job. That's the one thing where I had a discrepancy with Sharon Moore. On 3rd and 10, Edwards was stuffed, and it was a 3-and-out on that drive. Nebraska had a 3rd and 5, and Kemp had a 12-yard catch on that 3rd and 5. 3rd and 10, Kemp had a 7-yard catch, and they punted the ball. Morris muffed the return, but he picked it up, bounced right back to him, and had 30 yards on the punt return. Great. Ended up being great anyway. Another concern, special teams there on the returns. Thaw took a big hit, and I thought he might lose the ball as well, but he held on to it. With 3:59 left in the half, Michigan had the ball. CJ had a nice catch and a stiff arm and ran for 12 yards on this Nebraska's pretty good defense. 3rd and 1, Mullings had a 6-yard run. Corum had a 10-yard run. And on 3rd and 2, Mullings had 6 yards. So just pounding and keeping the ball away from Nebraska. JJ scrambled around and threw a dart for a 16-yard touchdown to Roman Wilson. Yet again, it was 28-0 Michigan. Now that was the end of the second half. Nebraska had like 30 seconds, so 30-some seconds left. Couldn't amount to anything. I don't count that against them. That was not a drive. But they opened the second half with the ball, and Marcus Washington had a 56-yard catch. But then on 3rd and 2, there was a false start on Nebraska, and on 3rd and 7, McGregor got in there for a sack, and they missed the field goal attempt. Shutout was still intact at that point. Michigan on 3rd and 10 on their next drive. Loveland had a 13-yard catch, evading a tackler for a first down. Clemens had that 19-yard catch. Corum had a 9-yard run. Corum with a 15-yard run. Then a play-action bootleg to Wilson for 8 yards, and Corum had that 8-yard run. Then Corum was in 2 different times into the end zone, I think. I think the first time he rolled over that guy and it was in. They didn't review it. Didn't matter. He got in the very next play. 35-0 Michigan. That drive was 11 plays, 78 yards, and 5 minutes and 50 seconds. Nebraska got the ball, and Michigan had their third batted pass at the line of scrimmage. And then Quentin Johnson had a tip of his own. It was 3-and-out. This defense is coming into form. With 5:38 left in the third quarter, Michigan pulled J.J. McCarthy, and Tuttle came in at quarterback. And these are probably the next couple of drives, I think, are my favorite drives of Michigan. Tuttle came in, and on 3rd and 8, there was an offsides and an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Nebraska, which gave them an automatic first down. But then Tuttle to Clemens for a 10-yard catch and run. Bredesen had a 5-yard catch. Nebraska was starting to feel the pain with the injuries at this point. A lot of people going down. Michigan is grown men, I'm telling you. 3rd and 4, Mullings had a 5-yard run. Then Samaj Morgan had a nice tunnel screen catch for 8 yards, and Edwards with 3, 4, and 5-yard carries during the drive, just in between all these plays being the constant. And eventually on 3rd and 4, Tuttle had a run for no gain, and the 30-yard field goal was good for Michigan, 38-0. With 14 minutes left in the game, and Michigan's playing backups, and they're scoring with their backups. That drive was 13 plays and 63 yards, and it took 6 minutes and 21 seconds off the clock. Nebraska then got a first down on their next possession. Derek Moore then had a sack fumble, but on 3rd and 13, Emmett Johnson had that 13-yard catch. So a first down for Nebraska. Fadone had a 17-yard catch, and on 3rd and 10, Washington dropped the ball. It was 4th and 10, and they went for it, and Josiah Stewart got a sack. Michigan had the ball at that point. It was turnover on downs. Denegal came in at quarterback, and Leon Franklin had a 6-yard run. So the backups were coming in and doing good. Denegal had an 8-yard run, and on 3rd and 5, Franklin had a 4-yard run. So it was 4th and 1, but no problem. We have Mullings. Another 6-yard run on 4th and 1 for him. Dunlap then had a 4-yard run. Dunlap had a 7-yard run. And then Donegal to Peyton O'Leary for an 8-yard touchdown pass. It was 45-0 Michigan. And then Nebraska with 4:37 left. Michigan had their defensive third stringers in, and they gave up the shutout. Fleeks had a 74-yard touchdown run. It was 45-7 Michigan. But Nebraska's onside kick failed, and Leon Franklin had a 9-yard run. Davis Warren came in at quarterback and had a 5-yard run. On 3rd and 3, it was stuffed. On 4th and 2, the ball was batted down. Michigan had a turnover on downs. And then Nebraska had the ball for 21 seconds left and couldn't do anything. Dominant performance here. On the road at Nebraska, I don't care if they're 2-3 now after the loss. They are the best competition other than Rutgers that Michigan has faced, and it was the first road game for Michigan. Georgia had their first road game and survived by 7 at Auburn. Michigan ended up having 436 yards total offense, and 249 of those were versus this Nebraska's great defensive front. 249 yards rushing for Michigan. And Michigan was 8 of 13 on third downs, continuing that trend, and had 26 first downs versus Nebraska. Another thing is Michigan didn't have any penalties in this game, I believe, and they are continuing that trend. Very disciplined. Nebraska ended up getting 305 yards there at the end, but only 106 rushing yards. So we held their running quarterback in check. And their running backs, Grant, all them guys were held in check. Nebraska was 3 of 10 on third down and 1 of 3 on fourth down. J.J. McCarthy, not much asked of him in this windy game, but he was 12 of 16. So, what's that, 75%, for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 runs for 30 yards and a touchdown. Corum on the ground had 16 carries for 74 yards, 4.6 average, and 1 touchdown. Mullings had 5 carries for 43 yards. That's an 8.6 average and 1 touchdown. And Franklin even came in there, and Dunlap there too. But Franklin had 6 carries for 26 yards, 4.3 average. The defense had 4 sacks, led by Josiah Stewart's 2 sacks. It was it was joy for me. First time I saw the Michigan team that I expected to see in the first 4 weeks of the season. It just so happened they had to wait to go on the road to show me what they can do. So, Michigan, are they number 1 or are they number 2? On a day when there was a lot of teams that had slow starts and pulled away, like, say, Penn State, there was teams that had a dominant lead and almost lost, like USC versus Colorado. Michigan is the complete team in the nation. They should be number 1. I had them that in my power ranking last week, and nothing's going to change my mind this week going forward. So there you have it. Go Blue, everybody. Hit the like button. Who's going to beat us? We have 4 cupcakes before we go to Penn State, and then at Maryland, and then Ohio State at the end of the season. At Minnesota, shouldn't be a problem. They struggled with their Group of 5 team. I think Louisiana. So I don't think I can overstate how good this Michigan team is with depth, with just ferocity. They just insert their will on opposing teams, especially today. I don't know how many players that have ended up being injured because of playing Michigan. I do not want injuries at all, and I don't think Michigan's trying to do that. It's just they are that physical. It's Jim Harbaugh coach team. He's going for it on 4th downs and stuff. I love that, kind of like Dan Campbell for the Lions. So, man, what a great time to be a Michigander. And have a great night, everybody. Go Blue.